As you may or may not know, I grew up in upstate New York, go Bills, and out in the northeastern part of our country, the school year typically starts just after Labor Day. And so around this time of year, I am very used to wearing my new school clothes and my new school shoes and starting the new school year right along with the NFL season. And this also means that I am very accustomed at this time of year to delivering a certain type of report. As you may recall, during those first days of school, it is customary for students to stand up in front of their new classmates and offer a verbal presentation, always entitled, "What I Did on My Summer Vacation." You had a chance to practice that at the beginning of worship. Do you remember those? Growing up, every year around September 10th, I would stand in front of my classroom and tell the group what I did on my summer vacation. Do you see where this is going this morning? Don't worry, this is still going to be a sermon, not just a book report, but as I looked at the gospel passage assigned for today, I couldn't help but realize that a lot of my summer this year focused around the lessons that Jesus is trying to teach us with his words in Matthew's gospel this morning. In that passage, Jesus is speaking to his disciples about how to keep the community of faith together. He lays out a clear process, a step-by-step guide for dealing with conflict in the community, a plan for reconciliation and repairing relationships. And I believe that Jesus says these things not only because he knows that repairing relationships will be essential for the survival of the church, but also because Jesus knows how essential relationships are for human well-being. You see, one of the things I did this summer was read a lot of books. And one of the books I read is called The Good Life. This book was written by the directors of the Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest scientific study of human happiness ever conducted. And while this book contains many great insights and stories and observations, the overwhelming finding is that human happiness is most influenced by having healthy relationships. The Harvard study that this book reports on has been going on for over 80 years. But thousands of years before the study even began, Jesus seemed to know just how important it was to maintain healthy relationships. When you look at Jesus' ministry, you start to see that this is the consistent common thread. When Jesus healed people, he made them physically well, and by healing them, he removed the barriers that had forced these people to be outcasts in society. When Jesus argued with the religious leaders of his day, it was always about the ways that their interpretation of the religious laws was alienating other people from the community. And when Jesus rose from the dead, he appeared to whole groups of people so that their faith could be affirmed together. You see, it's all about relationships. Jesus seemed to know that God designed us from the very start to be relational beings. God hardwired within us a need, a longing to be in relationship with our neighbors and in relationship with God. That's why Jesus wanted to give such clear instructions to his disciples about how members of the church should handle their disagreements. But don't take my word for it. Don't take the word of the Harvard study on happiness for it. You don't even have to take Jesus' word for it, although I would recommend it. But just think for a second about what you did on your summer vacation. I'm guessing that some of your favorite memories of these last months were shared with other people, weren't they? As much as I love reading by myself under the tree in my front yard, I loved even more the nights when I sat in my front yard talking with my neighbors. Or the times I spent at the pool playing with my kids. Or the trip we took this summer to see our old friends from Philadelphia. Or the time I spent in Granby with my parents and sisters and their families. The best moments of my summer, and I'm guessing the best moments of your summer, were moments spent with other people. I know that relationships can be messy and a lot of hard work. I know that some of you are introverts and you get a little freaked out by the thought of having to be around a lot of other people. But still, we all continue to need connection with others because there's something inherently life-giving about this human connection. That's what Jesus is getting at in the end of our gospel reading. He offers that famous line, "Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them." Now, when I was a pastor of a small church, this passage would often get quoted when only 2 people showed up for Bible study. But I don't think Jesus was saying this so we could have an excuse for poor attendance. No, Jesus is trying to help us see that when we connect with others, we inherently connect with God as well. That God, the source of all life in the universe, is there with us when we gather in community. There is something life-giving about human connection. In fact, in another book I read this summer titled "Own Your Past, Change Your Future," John Deloney describes the scientific research that's been done recently around loneliness. Loneliness has been labeled by health authorities as an epidemic in our society because it's so widespread, but also because it has incredibly destructive effects on our physical health. It's not good for us to be lonely and isolated. But then the flip side of that means that when we are with others, it is healthy. It is literally life-giving to be in relationship. When 2 or 3 are gathered, God, the author of life, is there with us, bringing us to greater health and vitality. God is there with us when we talk with our friends about our struggles at work. God appears in our midst when that colleague unexpectedly drops by just to cheer us up after a hard day. God is present when those friends stop in and check in on us as we deal with our grief. We need each other. Our world is filled with lonely people, and so much healing could be found if we all just prioritized our relationships a little bit more. In fact, in another book I read this summer, I learned about a meeting where a group of faith leaders invited the mayor in their town to come and speak with them about how their churches might better serve the community. And in that conversation, the mayor said this: "The majority of the issues that our community is facing would be eliminated or drastically reduced if we could just figure out a way to become a community of great neighbors." After that meeting, one of the pastors in the group said, "Is anyone else embarrassed that the mayor basically just said that things would be way better if we just lived out Jesus' command to love our neighbors?" You see, it's all about relationships. Jesus gives his disciples clear instructions on how to restore relationships and maintain the church community. And Harvard professors concluded that relationships are essential for human happiness. And health professionals surmise that relationships are crucial for our well-being. And city mayors notice that people committing to be better neighbors would in fact transform a city. As summer ends and we head into fall, I pray that Bethany will be a place where we all can find more of these life-giving relationships. I pray that we will find ways to connect with the lonely people that God places along our path of life so that they can find healing. I pray that Bethany can be a place where more people find the support they've longed for through our small groups and ministries. I pray that our relationship with God and knowledge of the divine love that we have all received, I pray that that will inspire us to show love to our neighbors and thereby change the world for the better. Because it's all about relationships. Our happiness and well-being, our life and practice of faith, Jesus' words and ministry, it's all about relationships. May we hold sacred the relationships God has blessed us with. May we work to repair the friendships that have fractured, and may we show love to our neighbors so that they might know the blessings of relationships and the love of presence of God. Amen.